Good morning, everyone. And I wanted to come to you for just a few minutes. This is our second volume on our daily spiritual medicine. I hope that you enjoyed the first one. It was about God and how that love originates all things, all actions, all things. Someone asked me the question. I want to answer it very quickly. They said, how can you say that men like Hussein, Hitler, Mussolini, all of these men, Stalin, how can you say that their actions stemmed from love? Well, remember, I said the love of power is the root of all evil. The way they stem from love is they had a love for their country, they had a love for their people, they had a love for their government, or they had a love for an individual. They had a love for a concept, for an agenda they thought would work. And then that doesn't mean their actions were pure love, but it was love, pure love, that gave them those ideas to move on and things that they did. You can't okay it. You can't put a stamp of approval on it. But at the same time, all things stem from love. Very quickly, Hitler, what he did was he read the things that Martin Luther, the sixth church age or fifth church age messenger, had written, and he read those things. And Luther was an excellent person. He'd done so much good, but he made statements in his teachings that the Jewish people were destroying Germany just like they had destroyed Israel through Christ. They destroyed Christ, they hung him on Calvary, and he made statements like they needed to be removed from all offices in Germany. Then he went on to make statements about the Jewish people are antichrist and need to be done away with. Many things that he said that just weren't true. It wasn't right. But he did all that stemming from his love for the country, his love for looking at the economics of the country and looking for a lot of things that he thought needed to change. He went about it in a terrible way. Like I said, the actions is not what I'm talking about. It's the attitude, the thought, the ideas. It stems from a feeling of love. Love originates all things. Okay, now today we are going to take a look at our second volume, and we're going to talk on when is life constituted in humanity. And I put down a couple of things. It says, where does human life begin? That was the question that was sent. Where does human life begin? Is it at conception, when a woman conceives in the womb, or is it at natural birth? My answer, let's go to Genesis 2 and 7 first. It says, and the Lord God formed a man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Now, listen to this very closely. And man became a living soul. He was not a living soul before. He was alive. He was a spirit. And he was living in a spirit world, just like every single one of us were. And then when you put dust on, whether that comes through the womb of your mother, through the seed of your father, through creation, however it is, when you put dust on, you begin to develop and form, and a nature of that spirit. So you weren't a living soul until your natural birth, and this is where people get things a little mixed up. You were not a living soul until your natural birth, just like this man we just read about in Genesis 2 and 7. However, you were alive. And life of a human is constituted at the conception and the sealing of the matrix in the womb. Immediately growth begins. The seed, the egg, they produce, and growth begins the building of a body of life. So there is a life form in the womb growing. I am positive that human life is constituted at conception. Science has said there is life form there. And, it's funny, they protect everything. They protect the eagle's eggs, they protect special birds, they protect this and that. But um, it seems like they don't want to protect the most precious and the most innocent of all things, and that is human life. It's a simple fact. Anything that is growing is alive. Plants, botany, animals, humans, anything that's growing is alive. Also, the soul of a human is the nature of the human spirit. It was a spirit before, but when we move into the earth, we put on a body and we begin to develop a soul for humanity. So we become a living soul at our natural birth. The soul of a man is the nature of the human spirit. We become a living soul at our natural birth. And when the breath of life enters into the body, just like we read Genesis 2, when the breath of life enters into the body, you become a living soul. And when a human is born, now I'm not talking about conception, at conception, you are a spirit life developing a body in the womb, sealed in the matrix of a woman. Now, when a woman is born, or when a human is born or created, however they come, that person develops and becomes a living soul. You were living prior to your birth. Okay. You were living prior to your birth, but we do not believe in pre-existence of souls. That's very clear. You you don't believe in pre-existence of souls in a manner that many different religions believe, but we do understand that we were spirit and we were very much alive and awaiting to step into the earth and develop a living soul. So you were living prior to your birth here, but we do not believe in the preexistence of souls. So life here is constituted at conception in the womb, and the soul is constituted at your natural birth. You are life and you become a living soul. Life before and at conception, developing a body. And when you come out, you begin to develop a living soul right here in humanity. That's when life is constituted in humanity. Let's read this. 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 45. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. Okay. The first man, Adam, was made a living soul. And we read how? When he put on the dust of the ground and the breath of life was breathed into him, he became a living soul. Now, so we see that Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. You are life. You are life that moved into the womb at conception. When they do the things they do to babies, innocent little babies, they are destroying life. They're killing life. And what happens is that life, you say, oh, that means the baby went out of existence. No, it doesn't mean that. That life form didn't enter in and become a human soul. It's still alive, it's still life, and it awaits its time. and it will come into the earth at some point. You are life that moved into the womb, and at conception, human life began. So you were spirit, you moved into the womb at conception, human life begins. You were naturally birthed into the earth 9 months later and became a living soul or a nature of the life that was before the world was, that entered into the mother's womb and then developed a body and produced it, birthed it into the earth, and became a living soul or a nature of the life that you always were. You form into a spiritual being, okay? Your life, you enter a womb, you build a body, you birth that body in the natural and become a living soul. You form into a spiritual being. That life, developing a living soul, becomes a spiritual being. You form into a spiritual being. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit, and you're made a quickening spirit. What I'm talking about is this is the progression of life through the earth. Life, conception, natural birth, spiritual being or spiritual birth, and you move on out into whatever the next thing is. But the trip of life through earth is life, conception, natural birth, spiritual birth, and right on out. So we see this very clearly. I hope that it has been a great help to you. If you have any questions, you are certainly welcome to take a look, to write it in. I'm looking right now. I see different ones that are on. Um, this life that we are living here was constituted, it's ours. We developed it. We were in the spirit before we ever came here. We are spirit. Those that he said, God is a spirit. We are spirit. We know who we are. We are gods. We have understanding. We have dominance in the earth. We have development in the earth. Probably the next thing we'll talk about, now that we've showed the life of the spirit before this world, the life entering, how it enters into this world at conception, develops a body, and then that life becomes a living soul, and then becomes the last thing, becomes a spiritual being. Now that we've seen all that, I'm going to show the mind that goes through all that in our next session, and how that we have three minds, not really three minds, three attributes of one mind. We always want to stay away from dualism, twinity, trinity, any of those things. We are one. We are the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of eternity, whatever you want to call it. And what we're doing is developing ourselves through. So, love bless you, and I hope that that has been a little bit of a help for you. And we will come back tomorrow morning, and we will talk about these developments of the mind for just a few minutes. I've had many questions about it. What is the theophany mind? What is the carnal mind? And what is the spiritual mind? So we'll get into that in the morning. Remember, you came into the earth, you became a living soul then. And you came into the earth, and the last thing that you do, you took on a natural birth, you took on a spiritual birth. A spiritual birth just meaning a process through the earth, and it develops you into a quickening spirit. And you have the life in you. You are the life that quickens everything around you and brings it to life. Love bless. I've enjoyed it.